The door slammed behind me so hard the whole house shook. "Where the hell have you been, you slut?" My husband's voice cut through the air like a knife. His entire family sat there, watching, judging, and I stood frozen in the doorway. Snowflakes still melting in my hair. But Derek had no idea what was waiting for him that night. Let me take you back. Because to really understand what happened on that New Year's Eve, you need to know how I got there. How I became the woman standing in that doorway, being screamed at in front of people who hated me. My name is Rachel, and 7 years ago I thought I'd found my forever. I met Derek at a coffee shop. Sounds cliche, right? But that's exactly how it happened. I was 23, fresh out of college, working my first real job at a small marketing firm downtown. I was stressed, exhausted, and honestly, pretty lonely. Dottie walked up to my table with that smile. You know the kind. The one that makes your stomach flip. He was tall, confident, with these deep brown eyes that seemed to look right through you. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked. "Every other seat's taken." I looked around. The coffee shop was half empty. He laughed. "Okay," I lied. "I just wanted to talk to you." And just like that, I was hooked. Derek was everything I thought I wanted. Charming, ambitious. He made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. He'd show up at my apartment with flowers for no reason. He'd text me good morning every single day. He planned elaborate dates. Once, he rented out a whole rooftop just so we could dance under the stars. Looking back now, I realized those were the love bombing days. But back then, I was blind. Completely, utterly blind. We got married after just 18 months of dating. My mom had concerns. She kept saying, "Honey, you barely know him. Why the rush?" But I didn't listen. I was in love. Or at least, I thought I was. The wedding was beautiful. Small, intimate, exactly what I'd always dreamed of. Derek cried when he saw me walking down the aisle. His vows made everyone tear up. He promised to love me, protect me, cherish me forever. Forever lasted about 6 months. The first time he yelled at me. Was so shocked I couldn't even respond. We'd been arguing about something stupid, I can't even remember what now. And suddenly his face twisted into something I'd never seen before. "Are you really that dumb?" he spat. "Sometimes I wonder why I even married you." I stood there, tears streaming down my face, trying to figure out who this stranger was. Because this wasn't the man I married. This couldn't be. He apologized later, of course. Brought me flowers. Said he was stressed from work. Promised it would never happen again. But it did. Again and again and again. The yelling became constant. The insults became normal. He criticized everything I did. The way I cooked. The way I cleaned. The way I dressed. Nothing was ever good enough for Derek, and then there was his family. His mother, Patricia, was a whole other nightmare. She never liked me from the start. She thought her precious son deserved better. Someone with a better job, a better family, better everything. Derek could have had anyone, she told me once, right to my face. "I still don't understand why he chose you." I smiled and swallowed my pain. Because that's what I always did. His father, Harold, wasn't much better. He barely acknowledged my existence. And his sister, Megan. She made snide comments every chance she got. About my weight, my hair, my clothes. My entire existence seemed to offend her. But Derek never defended me. Not once. "That's just how they are," he'd say whenever I brought it up. "Stop being so sensitive." So I learned to be quiet. To shrink myself down. To become invisible. Year after year. I disappeared a little more. I gave up my job because Derek said he made enough money for both of us. I gave up my friends because he said they were a bad influence. I gave up my hobbies because he said they were a waste of time. Before I knew it, didn't recognize myself anymore. And then came the accusations. I don't know when it started exactly, but Derek became convinced I was cheating on him. Every time I left the house, he wanted to know where I was going, who I was with, when I'd be back. He'd check my phone when he thought I was sleeping. He'd question me if I took too long at the grocery store. "Who were you talking to?" he'd demand. "No one, Derek. I was just shopping." "Don't lie to me, Rachel. I know you're hiding something. I wasn't. I had nothing to hide. But no matter what I said, he didn't believe me. The word slut became his favorite insult. He'd throw it at me whenever he was angry, which was often. Too often, I thought about leaving. So many times, I thought about packing a bag and just walking out that door. But where would I go? I had no job, no money of my own, no friends left to call. Derek controlled everything. The bank accounts, the credit cards, every penny we had went through him first. I was trapped. But then something happened that changed everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon in March. Derek was at work, and I was home alone cleaning like I always did. I was putting away his laundry when I found it. A receipt for a hotel room. A fancy hotel room downtown. 2 nights, charged to a credit card I didn't even know existed. My hands started shaking. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was for work. Maybe he had a client meeting that ran late. Maybe ... but deep down, I knew. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. The late nights at work that kept getting later. The business trips that seemed to multiply. The way he'd angle his phone away from me when he texted. The new cologne he started wearing. The gym membership he suddenly cared about. All the signs were there. I just hadn't wanted to see them, but now I did. It took me 3 months to gather enough evidence. I was careful. So careful. I took photos of receipts when he wasn't looking. I wrote down dates and times of his suspicious absences. I even hired a private investigator with money I'd been secretly saving from the grocery budget. Derek had no idea. He thought I was still the same obedient wife. The one who never questioned him. The one who accepted every insult, every accusation, every humiliation. But I wasn't. Not anymore. The private investigator confirmed what I already knew. Derek was having an affair. Her name was Brittany, 26 years old, worked at his company. They'd been seeing each other for almost a year. A whole year. While he was calling me a slut. While he was accusing me of cheating. While he was making me feel worthless. He was the one who was unfaithful. I didn't cry when I found out. I thought I would, but I didn't. Something inside me had already died. The woman who loved Derek, who believed in our marriage, who thought things might get better, she was gone. In her place was someone new. Someone stronger. Someone who was finally ready to fight back. I started making plans. First, I got a job. A secret one. I found a small marketing agency that was willing to let me work remotely, part-time. I did everything while Derek was at work. He never knew. Every paycheck went into a separate bank account. One he didn't know about. One that was mine and mine alone. Then I found a lawyer. Her name was Sandra. And she was exactly what I needed. Tough, smart, experienced in divorce cases involving controlling spouses. "You have a strong case," she told me after reviewing everything. "The evidence of his affair, the financial control, the emotional abuse, we can work with this." For the first time in years, I felt hope. But I wasn't ready to make my move. Not yet. I needed to wait for the right moment, and that moment came on New Year's Eve. Derek's family always spent the holidays together. It was tradition. His parents would come to our house along with his sister and her husband. I was expected to cook, clean, host, and smile through it all while they treated me like dirt. This year was no different, except it was. Because this New Year's Eve, everything was going to change. I spent the whole day preparing. I cleaned the house from top to bottom. I decorated everything perfectly. I started cooking a feast that would feed 10 people, but I had one thing I needed to do first. At 3 o'clock that afternoon, told Derek I needed to run to the store for some last-minute ingredients. He barely looked up from his phone. "Fine, be quick." I left the house and drove straight to Sandra's office. She was waiting for me with a stack of papers and a pen. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "Once you sign, there's no going back." I looked at those papers. Divorce papers. Papers that would end 7 years of marriage. 7 years of pain, of humiliation, of slowly losing myself. "I'm sure," I said, and I signed. Sandra smiled. "The papers will be filed first thing tomorrow morning. By this time next week, he'll be served." I thanked her and left, but traffic was worse than I expected. An accident on the highway turned a 20-minute drive into an hour. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I was an hour late and Derek's entire family was already there. I walked through that front door, snow still in my hair, my heart pounding in my chest, and that's when he started screaming. "Where the hell have you been, you slut?" His face was red. Furious, he stood in the middle of the living room. His family arranged on the couches behind him like an audience waiting for a show. "My family's been sitting here hungry for an hour and the table still isn't set. What were you doing? Who were you with?" His mother crossed her arms and shook her head. "I told you, Derek. I told you from the beginning." Sister smirked. Actually smirked. Like she was enjoying every second of this. I just stood there, frozen. Not because I was scared. Not because I was hurt. But because I realized something in that moment. I didn't care anymore. For years, I'd let these people tear me down. I'd let them make me feel small. I'd let them convince me that I was worthless. But not anymore. I'd just signed divorce papers. I had money saved. I had a job. I had a plan. And in a few short days, Derek would find out exactly who he'd been married to all these years. So I took a deep breath. "Sorry I'm late," I said quietly. "Traffic was bad." Derek scoffed. "Traffic, right? You expect me to believe that?" "Believe whatever you want, Derek." His eyes narrowed. Something in my tone surprised him. Usually I'd be crying by now, apologizing, begging for forgiveness, but not today. "Just set the table," he snapped, "and try not to embarrass me any more than you already have." I walked into the kitchen without another word, but as I pulled plates from the cabinet, I allowed myself a small smile, because Derek had no idea what was coming. He thought he had all the power. He thought I was still that scared, broken woman who'd do anything to please him. But I had secrets of my own now, and by the end of this night, everything was going to change. I just had to get through dinner first, and trust me, you're not going to believe what happened next. I set the table in silence, every plate placed perfectly, every fork and knife aligned just right, every napkin folded exactly how. Patricia liked it. Years of doing this had made me an expert. Derek's family settled into their seats, not one of them offering to help. Not that I expected it. I'd stopped expecting anything from these people a long time ago. I served the appetizers first. Stuffed mushrooms, Patricia's favorite. I'd spent hours on them. She took one bite and wrinkled her nose. "These are cold, Rachel." They weren't. "I'd just pulled them from the oven 5 minutes ago." "Sorry," I said automatically. Don't bother. You've already ruined the evening by being late. What's one more disappointment?" Megan snickered. Her husband Todd just stared at his phone. It's completely checked out. Derek sat at the head of the table, watching me with those cold eyes. The same eyes I'd once thought were warm and loving. How wrong I'd been. "Sit down, Rachel," he commanded. "Let's just try to salvage what's left of this night." I sat. Dinner continued with the usual conversation. Harold talked about his golf game. Patricia complained about her neighbors. Megan bragged about her new designer bag that Todd had bought her. And me. I stayed quiet. I ate small bites. I smiled when expected. But inside, I was counting down the minutes. Because what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd invited a special guest tonight. Someone who was going to change everything. Around 8 o'clock. The doorbell rang. Derek frowned. "Who the hell is that?" "We're not expecting anyone." "I'll get it," I said, standing quickly. "No, I'll get it." He pushed back from the table, irritation written all over his face. I sat back down, my heart pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. This was it. Derek opened the front door, and I heard a familiar voice. "Hey there, Derek. Long time no see." Derek's response was confused. Marcus, what are you doing here? Marcus? My brother, the same brother Derek, had forced me to cut off 3 years ago. The same brother who'd tried to warn me about Derek from the very beginning. The same brother I'd been secretly reconnecting with for the past 6 months. Rachel invited me, Marcus said, stepping inside. Said it was a family dinner. Figured I should be here. Derek turned to look at me, his face a mask of barely controlled rage. You invited him? Without asking me. I met his eyes. I didn't think I needed permission to invite my own brother. The table went silent. Patricia's mouth fell open. Megan stopped mid-chew. Even Todd looked up from his phone. Derek's jaw tightened. We'll talk about this later. Looking forward to it, Marcus said cheerfully, completely unbothered. He walked over and kissed my cheek. Hey sis, you look beautiful. I almost cried right there. I hadn't heard those words in so long. There's a seat for you, I said, gesturing to the chair I'd secretly set at the end of the table. I saved you a plate. Marcus sat down and dinner resumed. But the energy in the room had shifted. Derek kept shooting daggers at me with his eyes. His family was clearly uncomfortable. And me. For the first time in years, I had backup. Marcus dominated the conversation. He talked about his job, his travels, his life. He asked me questions and actually listened to my answers. He complimented the food, genuinely complimented Eton, even asked for seconds. This is incredible, Rach. He said, mouthful of roast beef. You always were the best cook in the family. Thank you, I whispered. Derek scoffed. She's adequate. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Adequate. Dude, this meal would cost $200 at a restaurant. Show some appreciation. The table went dead silent again. Nobody talked to Derek that way. Nobody. Excuse me? Derek's voice was dangerously quiet. You heard me? Akush set down his fork. My sister spent all day cooking this meal. The least you could do is say thank you. Derek's hands curled into fists. I don't need you coming into my house and telling me how to treat my wife. Apparently you do. I held my breath. This was escalating faster than I'd planned. Marcus, I said softly, it's okay. No, Wretch, it's not okay. He turned to face me and his eyes were full of pain. You think I don't know what's been going on? You think I haven't noticed how thin you've gotten? How sad you sound on the phone? How you always have an excuse for why you can't visit? Tears pricked my eyes. Marcus, please, ... He's been hurting you, Marcus said quietly. And I've had to sit by and watch because every time I tried to help, he cut you off more. But I'm done being silent. Derek stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Get out of my house. Marcus didn't move. Said, get out. Make me? The two men stared at each other. Derek was taller, but Marcus was broader. And unlike me, Marcus wasn't afraid. Patricia cleared her throat. Derek, darling, perhaps we should all calm down. Stay out of this, Mom. Stood up. Enough. Everyone turned to look at me. Enough, I repeated. Marcus, thank you for coming. But I need you to let me handle this, Ratch, please. He hesitated, then nodded slowly. Okay, but I'm not leaving. I'll be in the living room if you need me. He walked away and Derek rounded on me immediately. What the hell was that? You humiliate me in front of my family. You invite that lowlife into our home without permission. That lowlife is my brother. He's a troublemaker who's always hated me. He's the only person who ever told me the truth about you. Derek's eyes widened. What's that supposed to mean? I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd given 7 years of my life to. This man who had promised to love and cherish me. This man who had slowly, systematically destroyed everything I was. It means I'm done, Derek. He laughed. Actually laughed. Done with what? With this. With you. With pretending. Smile faded. What are you talking about? I know about Brittany. The color drained from his face. That's right, I continued, my voice steady. I know about your little girlfriend. The one you've been seeing for the past year. The hotel rooms. The expensive dinners. The business trips that were anything but. Prisha gasped. Derek, what is she talking about? She's lying, Derek sputtered. She's crazy. She's always been jealous and paranoid. I have photos, I said. I have receipts. I have statements from a private investigator I hired 6 months ago. Dead silence. Derek's face went from white to red in seconds. You hired a what? A private investigator. I know everything, Derek. Everything. He stepped toward me, and for a second, I thought he might hit me. I braced myself. But then Marcus appeared in the doorway. Touch her, he said quietly, and I will end you. Derek froze. And in that moment, I saw him for what he really was. Not the confident, powerful man he pretended to be, but a bully? Coward? Someone who only felt strong when he was tearing others down. This insane, Derek said, looking around desperately. Mom, Dad, you can't believe this, but Patricia wasn't looking at me anymore. She was looking at her son. And for the first time ever, I saw doubt in her eyes. Derek, she said slowly, is any of this true? Of course not. Then why do you look so guilty? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. That's when my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. It was Sandra, my lawyer. I need to take this, I said. I stepped into the hallway, my heart racing. Sandra, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Actually, something very right just happened. I need you to check your email. Right now? What? Why? Just do it, Rachel. I opened my email with shaking hands, and when I saw it, I nearly dropped my phone. Oh my God, I know. Sandra said, I couldn't believe it either. But it's all there. Every penny. I stared at the screen, my mind reeling. Sandra, how is this possible? Turns out your husband isn't as smart as he thinks he is. He's been hiding assets for years, offshore accounts, shell companies, investments he never disclosed. But my forensic accountant found everything. I scrolled through the documents. The numbers were staggering. Derek had millions. Millions he'd hidden from me while he made me beg for grocery money. Millions he'd spent on his mistress while I wore clothes from 5 years ago. What does this mean? I whispered. It means that when this divorce goes through, you're entitled to half of everything. And I mean everything. Plus, given the evidence of financial abuse and infidelity, we might be looking at even more. I leaned against the wall, my legs suddenly weak. Rachel, are you okay? I'm better than okay. Good, because there's one more thing. The papers are being served tomorrow as planned. But given what we just found, I'd suggest you're not there when it happens. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? I do now. I hung up and stood there for a moment, trying to process everything. For 7 years, I'd thought I had nothing. No money, no options. No way out. But I'd been wrong. I walked back into the dining room. Everyone was arguing. Patricia was demanding answers from Derek. Megan was yelling about how this was ruining New Year's Eve. Harold sat in stunned silence. And Derek looked like a cornered animal. Quiet, I said. Nobody heard me. Quiet. Everyone stopped. I looked at each of them in turn. These people who had made my life hell for 7 years. These people who had watched Derek tear me apart and said nothing. These people who thought I was weak. I'm leaving, I announced. Derek laughed nervously. You're not going anywhere. Watch me. You have nothing. He exploded. No money, no job. No, I have a job, I interrupted. I've had one for 6 months. I have my own bank account with my own money. I have a lawyer who's very, very good at what she does. And as of tomorrow morning, I'll have divorce papers filed with evidence of your affair, your hidden assets, and your years of emotional abuse. Derek's face crumbled. You're bluffing, am I? He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. And maybe he hadn't. Maybe he'd never bothered to look past the quiet, obedient wife he thought he'd created. You can't do this to me, he said, his voice cracking. After everything I've done for you, everything you've done for me. I laughed. It felt strange to laugh. I hadn't done it in so long. Derek, you've done nothing but take from me my confidence, my self-worth, my family, my friends, my entire identity. I stepped closer to him. But here's the thing you never understood. You can break someone down again and again, but you can never truly destroy them. Because eventually, they wake up. They remember who they were. And they decide to become someone even stronger. I pulled off my wedding ring. It was a simple gold band. Nothing fancy. Derek had said we'd upgrade it eventually, but we never did. Too expensive, he always said. Meanwhile, he was buying his mistress designer bags. I set the ring on the table. I don't want anything from this marriage except my freedom, I said. The lawyers will handle the rest. Derek grabbed my arm. You're not leaving me. Marcus was there in a second. Let her go now. Derek released me like I'd burned him. I looked at Patricia. She was crying. Whether it was for her son or for herself, I couldn't tell. I'm sorry this is how you had to find out, I said to her. But I'm not sorry for leaving. I should have done it years ago. I walked toward the door, Marcus right behind me. Rachel. Derek called after me. Rachel, wait. We can work this out. I'll change, I promise. I stopped at the door and turned around. That's what you said the first time you screamed at me, I said. And the second time, and the 100th time. I'm done believing your promises, Derek. I opened the door. Outside, snow was falling softly. It was almost midnight. In a few minutes, it would be a new year, a new beginning. Happy New Year, Derek, I said quietly, and I walked out into the snow. But here's the thing. This wasn't the end of my story, not even close. Because what happened over the next few months, it changed my life in ways I never could have imagined. And it all started with a chance encounter. On New Year's Day, you're gonna want to hear this next part. I spent New Year's Eve in Marcus's apartment. It was small. A one-bedroom place on the 3rd floor of an old building downtown. The heater made weird noises. The walls were thin enough to hear the neighbors celebrating. But it felt like paradise for the first time in 7 years. I could breathe. Marcus made me hot chocolate. We sat on his worn-out couch, watching the ball drop on his tiny TV, when midnight struck. Fireworks exploded across the screen. Happy New Year, sis, Marcus said, raising his mug. I clinked mine against his. Happy New Year. And then I cried. I cried for everything I'd lost, for the years I'd wasted, for the woman I used to be, for the woman I was still trying to become. Marcus didn't say anything. He just held me while I fell apart that night. I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, New Year's Day woke up to 17 missed calls from Derek and about 100 text messages. I didn't read any of them. I just blocked his number and made myself some coffee. Marcus had already left for work. He'd left a note on the counter. Stay as long as you need. Mi casa es su casa. There's leftover pizza in the fridge. I smiled. My brother. My protector. The one person who never gave up on me. Around noon, I decided to take a walk. I needed fresh air. I needed to clear my head. I needed to figure out what came next. The streets were quiet. Most people were sleeping off their hangovers. Snow covered everything in a blanket of white, making the city look almost magical. I walked without any destination in mind. Just wandering. Just existing. And that's when I saw her. She was standing outside a coffee shop, struggling with 3 large boxes while trying to open the door. She had curly red hair, bright green eyes, and a frustrated expression that made me laugh. Need some help? I called out. She looked up, relief washing over her face. Oh my God, yes, please. I'm about to drop everything. I jogged over and grabbed 2 of the boxes. Together, we maneuvered through the door. The coffee shop was charming. Exposed brick walls, mismatched furniture, the smell of fresh pastries. A chalkboard sign behind the counter read Maggie's Calf in swirly handwriting. You're a lifesaver, the woman said, setting down her box. I'm Maggie, by the way. This is my place, Rachel, I said. Nice to meet you, Rachel. Studied me for a moment. You look like you could use a coffee. And maybe a muffin. On the house. I started to protest, but she was already heading behind the counter. Sit, she commanded. You helped me, now let me help you. I sat and somehow over coffee and blueberry muffins, I ended up telling Maggie everything. I don't know why. Maybe it was because she was a stranger. Maybe it was because she had kind eyes. Maybe I just needed to say it all out loud. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Well, she finally said, sounds like you've been through hell. Yeah, I whispered. Something like that? But you got out. That's what matters. A lot of people never do. I know. She leaned forward, her eyes intense. So what are you going to do now? I don't know. Get a divorce. Find an apartment. Try to rebuild my life, I guess. Maggie nodded slowly. You said you used to work in marketing, right? Yeah, before Derek made me quit. Well, she smiled. Here's the thing. I just opened this second location. My first cafe is across town, and it's doing great. But I'm struggling to get the word out about this one. I need someone who knows marketing. Someone who can help me build this brand. I stared at her. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity. Part-time to start. Flexible hours. And all the free coffee you can drink. Couldn't believe it. I'd walked into this shop by chance, and now? I don't know what to say. Say yes, Maggie grinned. Trust me. I'm a great boss. Ha, I laughed. For the first time in what felt like forever, I genuinely laughed. "'Kay?" I said. Yes, and just like that, my new life began. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The divorce papers were served too. Derek, on January 2nd, Sandra called me afterward to tell me how it went. He threw them at the process server, she said. Then he tried to call you about 50 times. He's still blocked. Good, keep it that way. Derek didn't make things easy. Of course, he didn't. He hired his own lawyer, an expensive one, and tried to fight everything. He claimed I was lying about the affair. He claimed the hidden assets didn't exist. He claimed I was mentally unstable, but Sandra was better. She had evidence. She had documentation. She had the truth on her side. The forensic accountant uncovered even more hidden accounts. Turns out, Derek had been siphoning money from our joint finances for years. Money that was legally half mine. When his lawyer saw the evidence, he advised Derek to settle. Derek refused, so we went to court. It was terrifying walking into that courtroom. Derek sat on the other side with his fancy lawyer, glaring at me like I was his worst enemy. Patricia was there too, sitting behind him, her face pinched with disapproval. But I wasn't alone. Marcus sat right behind me. And Maggie, bless her heart, took the day off to be there too. You've got this, she whispered before we started. Show them who you really are. The judge was a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes. She didn't seem impressed by Derek's expensive suit or his smooth-talking lawyer. Sandra presented our case methodically. The affair, the emotional abuse, the financial control, the hidden assets. Every piece of evidence laid out in devastating detail. Derek's lawyer tried to spin things, tried to make me look like the bad guy. But every time he made a claim, Sandra had proof to refute it. Then came the moment that changed everything. Sandra called a surprise witness. We'd like to call Brittany Collins to the stand. Derek's face went white. Brittany walked in, looking nervous but determined. She was younger than I expected, pretty in an obvious kind of way. I wanted to hate her, but when she started talking, I realized she was just another victim. I didn't know he was married at first. Brittany testified. He told me he was divorced. By the time I found out the truth, I was already in too deep. And how did you find out? Sandra asked. Brittany looked directly at Derek, found pictures on his phone of his wife, of their house, of their life together. When I confronted him, he laughed. He said Rachel was just a convenience, that she was too stupid to ever figure it out. I felt sick, but also vindicated. And why are you here today? Sandra continued. Because when I found out what he was really like, I ended things. And then he threatened me. He said if I ever told anyone, he'd ruin my career. She lifted her chin. I'm done being scared of him. The courtroom was silent. Derek's lawyer had no response. What could he say? His client's mistress had just confirmed everything. The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. I got the divorce. I got half of everything, including the hidden assets. I got the house, which I planned to sell immediately. And Derek got exactly what he deserved, nothing. Well, not nothing. He got his mother's disappointment, his family's shame, his reputation in tatters. And the best part, his company found out about the hidden accounts. Turns out some of that money wasn't just marital assets, it was embezzled from his employer. Derek was fired and facing potential criminal charges. When we walked out of that courtroom, I felt lighter than I had in years. How does it feel? Marcus asked, throwing an arm around my shoulders. Feels like freedom, said, and it did. The months that followed were the best of my life. I threw myself into working with Maggie. Her second cafe became a huge success, thanks, if I do say so myself, to some pretty brilliant marketing. We became more than coworkers. We became best friends. I found my own apartment, a cute little studio with big windows and a view of the park. It wasn't much, but it was mine, all mine. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with. They welcomed me back with open arms, no questions asked. Well, maybe a few questions, but mostly just love. I started seeing a therapist. Her name was Dr. Okonkwo, and she helped me process everything I'd been through. The trauma, the self-doubt, the years of being told I wasn't good enough. You survived, she told me once. That takes more strength than you know. I was finally starting to believe her. And then, about 6 months after my divorce was finalized, something unexpected happened. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was at Maggie's cafe working on a new social media campaign when someone walked in. Rachel. I looked up, and my heart stopped. Standing in front of me was Noah Bennett, my college sweetheart, the guy I'd dated for 2 years before I met Derek, the one who got away, Noah. I couldn't believe my eyes. What are you doing here? He grinned. That same crooked grin I remembered from 10 years ago. I live in the neighborhood now. I walked by and saw the sign, and I thought I'd grab a coffee. Never expected to see you. I stood up, suddenly self-conscious. I work here. Well, kind of. It's complicated. Still making things complicated, huh? He laughed. Some things never change. We stood there for a moment, just looking at each other. He'd aged well. A few more lines around his eyes. A bit of gray at his temples. But still the same warm, genuine person I remembered. You want to sit down? I finally asked. Catch up. I'd love that. So we sat, and we talked. For hours. I told him everything. The marriage. The abuse. The divorce. All of it. He listened, just like he always had. Without judgment. Without trying to fix things. Just listening. I'm so sorry you went through that, he said quietly when I finished. You didn't deserve any of it. I know that now. Good. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Because the Rachel I knew, she was incredible. And I'm guessing she still is. I felt tears prick my eyes. I'm trying to remember who she was. You will. He smiled. You're already doing it. I didn't expect anything to come from that conversation. We exchanged numbers, sure. But I wasn't looking for a relationship. I was still healing. Still figuring out who I was. But Noah was patient. He didn't push. He didn't pressure. He just showed up. Again and again, he'd stop by the cafe for coffee. He'd text me funny memes. He'd invite me for walks in the park. Nothing romantic. Just friendship. Slowly, I started to trust again. It took almost a year. A full year of healing, of growing, of becoming someone I actually liked. Someone strong. Someone confident. Someone who didn't need a man to feel complete. And then, on New Year's Eve, exactly 2 years after that horrible night when Derek screamed at me in front of his family, Noah took me to that same rooftop where Derek and I had once danced. He'd rented it out, just like Derek had years ago. But this time, it felt different. This time, it felt right. "I have something to tell you," Noah said, his hands in his pockets, looking nervous. "What is it?" "I never stopped thinking about you, Rachel. After we broke up, after you got married, after everything, you were always there. In the back of my mind, in my heart, I couldn't speak." "I know you've been through hell," he continued, "and I know you're still healing. I don't want to rush anything. I just want you to know that I'm here, for as long as you'll have me. No pressure. No expectations, just ... me, loving you, the way I always have." Tears streamed down my face. But for the first time in years, they were happy tears. "Noah ... You don't have to say anything," he said quickly. "I just needed you to know." I stepped forward and took his hands in mine. "I'm not the same person I was in college," I said. "I'm different now, stronger, but also ... scarred. I know. It might take me a while to fully open up, to fully trust again. I know that too. I can't promise I'll be easy to love." He smiled, that crooked grin I adored. "Rachel, you've always been easy to love. It's you who couldn't see it." Accused him, right there on that rooftop. With fireworks exploding in the sky and a new year beginning, I kissed the man who had waited for me, who had believed in me, who loved me, not despite my scars, but because of everything I was. When we pulled apart, I was laughing and crying at the same time. "Happy New Year," I whispered. "Happy New Year." Rachel, that was 3 years ago today. I'm sitting on the porch of the house Noah and I bought together. It's a little farmhouse outside the city. The big yard and a garden I'm slowly learning to tend. We got married last spring. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. Maggie was my maid of honor. Marcus walked me down the aisle. I still work with Maggie. We've expanded to 5 locations now. I'm a partner in the business. Can you believe it? Me, the woman who once thought she was worthless, Derek. Last I heard, he plea bargained his way out of jail time but lost everything. His money, his reputation, his family's respect. Patricia apparently stopped speaking to him after the trial. I don't feel sorry for him. Maybe that makes me a bad person, but I don't. He made his choices. He faces the consequences. As for me, I made my choices too. I chose to leave. I chose to fight. I chose to rebuild. I chose to love again. And now, as I sit here watching the sunset, with Noah's hand in mine and our dog sleeping at our feet, I know one thing for certain. That woman who stood frozen in the doorway on New Year's Eve, snow in her hair, being called a slut by her own husband, she's gone now. In her place is someone stronger, someone braver, someone who knows her worth, someone who finally found her happy ending. I smile as Noah kisses my forehead. "What are you thinking about?" he asks, just how far I've come. He squeezes my hand. "I'm proud of you, every single day." "I know," I say. "I'm finally proud of myself too." The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, and I realize, sitting there in the fading light, that this is what happiness feels like. Not a fairy tale, not perfection, but peace, love, safety. Home. I look up at Noah, at this man who waited for me, who fought for me, who loved me back to life. "I love you," I say. "I love you too, Rachel. Always have, always will." And we sit there together, watching the stars come out, surrounded by everything we've built, and they lived happily ever after. With a big smile, the end.